Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of History with the Bard. We've been doing a lot of talking lately regarding
Excitement
Romance
continues.
of the Three Kingdoms, and it occurs to me that unless you understand the philosophies of the time, it doesn't really help to be able to know those things. So, I figured today we'll go ahead and we'll take some time out of our regularly scheduled programming to do two things. First, talk about Eastern philosophy, Far Eastern philosophies, and get a grasp on where everything stands when it comes to that. And second, an announcement to be made at the end of this session. So let's go ahead and dive in. Now, most Far Eastern philosophies, especially those pertaining to China, uh, I don't want to say came about, but well, um, most of them were sort of edified, put to paper, I guess, is probably the best way to put it. Put to paper during the Warring States period, which is from 475 to 221 BC. Now, this was a time of political upheaval, as implied by the name, naturally, where China was under the control of numerous warlords, all doing various things to try to get ahead in the game, so to speak. Um, but didn't always go as planned, and as such, we ended up with a fair number of different ideas, different thoughts on how to handle government, especially because government was so in flux at the time. So we ended up with a lot of different ways for people to handle these kind of things, and that's generally what Eastern philosophy boils down to. Um, hey, how do I govern? And they have varying amounts of success. Um, the three major philosophies that cropped up out of this particular time frame, though, were Confucianism, Taoism, and legalism. Now, these are the three major Chinese or China-specific philosophies that came about during this time frame. Um, all of them having, I don't want to say wildly different. They all had like a certain amount of similarities to them that people identified with, but for the most part, they were. Oh man, sorry, I don't know what's wrong with me today. For the most part, they were different enough that people tended to keep them separate. Um, the first we're going to go over will be Taoism. No, sorry, Confucianism. Confucianism is easily the most popular of the original, big Chinese philosophies, and it's pretty much what everybody would base, or what the Chinese governments would base themselves off of. Just a second here, I gotta figure out who to shoot. Looks like that guy, maybe? Or I could just bomb the whole thing. Nah, not worth. Okay, let's get the one furthest away. So, this idea was that, for Confucianism anyway, the idea is that learning is great, filial piety, or the process of honoring your ancestors and taking care of your parents, that kind of thing. That's great. These are awesome. Wow, nobody can shoot today, and there we go. Justin's got this. Um, these ideas of filial piety, these ideas of keeping keeping yourself well learned so that you could progress in life. These were the way to get ahead as things went. So it it has a strong focus on learning, has a strong focus on uh, doing everything you can to learn more. as long as it's Confucian. So it's a very, I don't want to say up its own, it's up its own ass. Um, very, very pretentious, very philosophical, as it were. It likes to try to make things sound more how do I put this? More important than they really are. So you end up with the Analects, which is their primary text. You end up with the Analects just being kind of goofy and not really about any one thing. It jumps from story to story and can't figure out where it wants to be, what it wants to do, who it wants to shoot, and it's just silly. But apparently, it was interesting enough that they based an entire philosophy around it. So, kudos to those guys. Like I said, this is easily the what's going on with me today? Easily the most popular. It saw a lot of use throughout Chinese history and well into modern times, when the Communist Party in China at the moment even went out of their way to put a statue of Confucius in one of their park areas right outside. I can't remember what this is, where it was. I should have showed it the other guy. Oh well, he does. Ended up putting a statue of Confucius in a park outside of an area that was, I don't want to say holy, because that's silly, important to followers of Mao Zedong. Now, Mao Zedong was famous for really hating religion, just in general. To him, Confucianism itself was the reason why China was doing any better or worse than any other country in the world. To him, Confucianism was holding back Chinese society. So, putting up this statue was viewed very poorly by anybody who supported his views, and it was taken down very swiftly afterwards. But I digress. So Confucianism gets some traction during the Warring States period and ends up easily as one of the most popular religions in the region. Let's see here. Like I said, a lot of focus on learning, a lot of focus on filial piety, but its origins are a little odd. Most notably, we aren't actually sure if Confucius was a real person or not. If I remember right, the actual title he is given is Kung Fu Tzu. 3 separate words altogether. And, we lost loot. 3 separate words altogether. And it actually just translates to great teacher. So he may not have actually been a person. However, many of the quotes in the Analects end up being more attributed to Mencius. This was one of his, I don't want to say disciples. Like, this is the thing when talking about Eastern philosophy. In the West, a lot of our philosophy is based off of our religions that we've had up until about the Renaissance, I want to say? Which is great for us because we can just say whatever we want about people. Unfortunately, very few of the religions in the East are actually religions. They're just philosophies on how you should live your life. Which is cool and all. Don't get me wrong, but it makes talking about it a little bit trippy sometimes. Yeah, so that's generally the idea of Confucianism. Very sexist. The Confucian ideals in this day and age are basically the ideals of a cartoon villain.